I've been going on a couple walks though. That's been nice. But then I went on a walk in the park with Elizabeth and Michael, my downstairs neighbor, Michael Furr, previous cast guest. And we went through the Wyman Park up near me, and it was still kind of crazy the amount of people who had dogs off the leash. And it's just don't touch me. I don't want a dog touching me right now that I don't know. Because let alone you've been touching your owner and shit, but also you probably sniffed poop and all this other wet ass dogs coming out of the river of JHU runoff. It's I don't know what the fuck's on you.
What's crazy is so last night or 2 nights ago, whenever the fuck night it was, when I was talking to Alex, and he was saying his friends got on him, his podcast mates got on him about the fact that he had a little happy hour session with me and Zach the night that I called you up and shit like that. And they were like, "Oh my God, you realize how irresponsible that was?" This, that, the other thing. But at the same time, one of his podcast guys is still hooking up with this random girl. She comes over his house and sleeps over. The other one is still walking her dog at the park every day with her friends and doing shit like that. And it's weird to think how in this quarantine, everybody has kind of justified their own actions as acceptable, but anything else is unacceptable. So it's I
don't think your thing was that bad either, especially because it was so early in the thing too.
It was early in it. Literally, if you think about it, that was
it was even
the
it
first
probably was
weekend.
Even before the stay-at-home shit.
Yeah, it was literally we were all at the bar the weekend before at Riptide. We were all chilling. Yeah. We were all doing our thing. And then that next Monday, they made the announcement. And then it was 4 days later that I had a little fucking balcony session with Alex and one other dude where we didn't share cigarettes. And this is what I was talking about with Alex. It's I have been taking this seriously to a point. And what I mean by that is I've been doing things differently than I normally do. Normally, I'm not a super conscious person when it comes to germs and shit like that. I'll share a cig with you. I'll drink some of your beer. I'll finish your bomb. I'll hit you with a cigarette. It's nothing to me, you know? And, now I've been thinking twice about those things. So, when we hung out, I had my Juul. Alex had a cigarette. He lit it. He was smoking it. And I was like, yo, can I get, normally I just ask for a drag of that, but, can you just hand me a new one because this whole thing or whatever? And we basically, my point is we were all taking measures outside of our regular daily conduct to kind of mitigate the situation. And to me, I felt like I was being responsible. And it's weird how someone else who I look at that as some bad thing because you were just hanging out on a balcony, but going to a dog park and being around 50 other people with their dogs running around and fucking running up to people and spreading germs and shit like that. That's totally fine because that's something that I've decided for myself is acceptable. But what you're doing is unacceptable. And it's weird how everybody kind of has their own idea of what's okay and what's not okay. And that's kind of what annoys me. It kind of annoys me in a big way. It also annoys me that people are so willing to all of a sudden become police of that shit. They're willing to call out their friends and stuff like that. And our boy Floyd Godsey had a great post earlier where he said, if you're one of the people who snitches on someone doing XYZ in quarantine, you would have been the same person to snitch on Anne Frank or snitch on Harriet Tubman. And at first glance, no, it's brutal. But at first glance, you look at that and be that's a little harsh comparison. But at the same time, there's another way of looking at it and being well, these are all things that I still consistently drop back to my immediate thought when this whole thing happened, which is how long are you willing to be told what to do? And how long are you willing to be told to avoid your personal freedoms as a human being and hang out with your girlfriend and see your parents and do these things that are a part of life? You know, there's a certain amount of time that I'm willing to put up with that before I say, fuck you. If this is the new version of life, I'm not signing up for it. You know?
Yeah.
Fucking kill me then. Fucking kill me then. Liberty or death. Shouts out New Hampshire. At a certain point, there has to be a limit where people go, it just kind of freaks me out in a weird way how willing everyone was to just accept everything that was jammed down their throat, and how willing people are to report people and bitch people out and all of a sudden become the police. And I don't think it's a ridiculous comparison to say, well, this was the same situation we were in, and like I know how crazy I sound when I say this. Trust me, I know, but like at the same time, there is a certain amount of leverage you give this. Like, these things don't happen. Like, when you look back at a thing like Nazi Germany or something like that, I know, even when I say this, I know I sound ridiculous, but I'm just going to say it anyway because I just need to say it.
You got to get it off your chest.
I got to get it off my chest. These things don't happen. Like, people always, like, my father, when I was talking to him today, in fucking person, like a normal human being, when I was talking to him, he was talking about how, like, when I was a little kid and he was in Dunkin' Donuts and he saw this woman with a tattoo on her arm in Dunkin' Donuts, and she was like, you know, like, playing with me. I was a little 3-year-old kid and stuff, and she was like making over me and stuff like that. And he was like, "Ma'am, I couldn't help but notice that tattoo." And she was like, "Yeah," like she had been through the Holocaust. And they were talking a little bit, and she was like, "Let me just tell you something. Don't ever think that couldn't happen here, because when you look back throughout history and you look at how people are motivated to take certain positions and how people are motivated to do certain things, it always just seems normal. It always you don't like you don't
it never all happens at once.
Yeah,
It's
you
all
don't
just
motivate an
gradual.
entire country of people to suddenly think it's okay to round up the Jews and put them in concentration camps. That is a systematic progression of normalizing certain thoughts and normalizing certain things to the point where now people that were turning in Jews and doing things like that they legitimately thought that they were doing something right. They thought that they were acting for the greater good. And I'm not saying that that's what's going on right now. I'm just saying that is the same thought process that I can't help but witness when I see people that are so willing to not only give up their own personal freedoms, but also be willing to get on other people for not giving up their personal freedoms, and their willingness to, like, you've seen people like report people to the police and shit like that. And it's like, that's how it happens. Like, that is what's going on in a weird way. I'm not saying it is what's going on, but you're watching the same thought process take place.
Yeah.
And there's never been a more kind of like revealing time throughout my life when I've seen like, oh, that's how it happened.
Yeah, dude, the tattletales are in full effect right now.
You know, and it's like everybody has their own justification because most people aren't bad people. Most people are just regular people. But if you can convince a regular person that what they're doing is for the greater good, like, for instance, I actually took this down in my notes. Apple and Google and I think Facebook are working on some new type of like surveillance program where they can monitor your phone, like they're doing in like South Korea and like the Asian countries, where they can like trace who you've been in contact with, and if you've been in contact with XYZ person, like they can like, you know, do whatever. And it's like,
yeah, when people are praising South Korea's response to it, they should also mention the footnotes. Like, yeah, they've just been tracking people, and if you're known to be a person who's had it, they'll just like email the people that you've been in contact with through GPS, and that's how they've, you know, there's like a good side to it. Like the virus has been kind of they
Quelled,
stomped
yeah.
the curve,
Yeah.
but also, hey, now everyone knows what you're doing.
Yeah, and it just comes down to the ultimate question: how willing are you to give up your own personal freedom in the pursuit of, you know, quelling whatever is going on? And it does come down to it, because it's like I always ask myself the question: how long am I willing to do what I'm doing right now, which is to completely be isolated from the world, to completely be isolated from what I do for a living, to completely be isolated from having a podcast with you in regular fucking life and hanging out with my friends and doing that? How long am I willing to put up with that? And there is a limit. There is a limit. And it just, I just wonder what people's limits are. And it's amazing that some people apparently they are just willing to be told what to do until the fucking end of it. It's amazing, dude. It's kind of fucking weird.
Dude, it's going to be so good when we get the first cast back in the studio. That's going to be a moment.
We'll share a spliff. We
That'll
probably
be
won't. We probably won't.
moment.
That's the
Maybe
thing.
not
We
the first time
probably
back.
won't.
Who knows?
We probably won't, and that's what sucks. We might never share a spliff again.
Don't
Eric.
say that,
you ever
dude.
think about that?
Don't say that. Don't say that, buddy. You can't think like that.
I mean, we might not. We might not, dog. Like, this has changed everything, bro. Like, they're talking about, like, maybe, like, not even, like, they're talking about, like, maybe we shouldn't shake hands anymore.
They
Maybe we
said,
shouldn't do
yeah,
that.
they said probably no like big concert or music festivals until like something 2021, like late in 2021, like September or October.
I don't
Dude,
like it, bro.
what are all these teens gonna do?
This social
Not get
distancing
chlamydia? Come
this
on.
social distancing thing has much grander effects than we like to entertain. And it's the same scheme that you look at when you talk about how, like, if you make a Facebook status, you make a tweet or something like that, and people read it in their own voice. They don't see it the way you said it. They're not sitting with you in the same room when you make a joke and seeing your facial expression and hearing the context and seeing how everything kind of came to that moment where you said something and it was funny. Instead, what they do is they read it in whatever state of mind they're in at that moment, and they read it in their own voice, and they don't see your facial expression, they don't see your body language, and all they see is how they intellectualize it through their own lens. And so social distancing, in a weird way, this new form of communication that we're involved in right now, is dangerous because it's kind of accentuated on what's already been going on, which is, in a weird way, I am more connected with a lot of people that I normally wouldn't be connected with. You know, like I like tweet back and forth to people that, like, if I see them in real life, I barely have a full conversation with.
Yeah.
You know,
for
like,
sure.
I'm Twitter friends with people that I'm not real friends with. And I'm Facebook friends with people that I'm not real friends with. You know, I don't have that relationship with those people. Those people are the people that like what I post on Facebook or like what I tweet, but, like, they don't really actually know me. They just know what they think of me, you know, and they like what they think of me. But there's a whole bunch of people that don't, they read my shit and they think, like, oh, this, that, the other thing. And, like, that is becoming the new normal. Like, this new level of communication that we're in right now, this kind of, like, distance type of shit, is like, that is becoming the standard level of communication more now than ever. Like, it's becoming, and if you're talking about a world where more and more people are working from home and more people are avoiding human contact, not shaking hands, not being in the same room, staying 6 feet apart, doing this, that, the other thing. You're talking about a world where people are more and more removed from other people to a point where we actually don't even, I think social connection is crucial. I think it's crucial. And we have kind of eliminated that throughout society.
Yeah, I mean, solitary confinement is like the worst place to be in prison. And like a lot of people are just in solitary confinement right now in their homes.
Yeah. It's like the worst punishment. It's like the worst punishment. And that's becoming, what they're talking about is a world where, because that's the thing I think that.
Prison Planet, baby. Alex Jones called it.
He kind of did. He kind of did. But, like, that's becoming a world that, like, even after this is all over, this situation is going to change the way we go about our lives after this is all over.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like a light switch where we just flip on and off. It's not like, oh, now we're back to normal. People aren't going to go back immediately to being the way they were. People are still going to be scared to go out to the bars. People are still going to be scared of standing in places with crowds and stuff like that. And it's going to change the way we live. And I just don't like this world we live in right now. I know that we've discovered some interesting things throughout these past weeks. Like, oh, maybe some of our employees can work from home and we're still equally as productive. That's cool. But also, maybe people need to be in a fucking office and talk to somebody 5 days a week. Maybe it's not healthy for a human being to sit in their own fucking apartment in their underwear 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, and work off their laptop. Maybe that's not the ideal way to live as a human being, even though it's equally productive for a fucking company. You know, this is going to change the way people exist, and I don't fucking like it, dude. I don't fucking like it.
Especially because now, like, if work from home is the norm, companies are going to expect you to be on call like a doctor 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you didn't see the email? Yeah. Oh, I sent it over at like 7:30 last night, but I asked you to have this ready by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Well, it's 10 now, so we don't really need you anymore. Say goodbye to your health insurance.